DJ Durkin had a chance. Going into the Vanderbilt, Mercer, and Auburn games, if he had gone 3-0, I think he would have been hired as the Tigers head coach. Instead, kind of out of left field, I wasn't super tied into this, but all of a sudden, Alex Golesh, who has done a phenomenal job at South Florida, is announced as Auburn's head coach. I like this hire. I do. I give this a B+. I think Alex Golesh has just as much of a chance to succeed at Auburn as really any of these hires do at their respective spots. And keep in mind, the odds that every coach I talk about today work out are not very high. And I think it's literally a coin flip as to whether Golesh is going to succeed at Auburn and stop the heartbreak that the Tigers fan base has been enduring for the last several years, or whether it will just continue and Auburn fans will begin, or probably continue, to feel like they are just cursed in this regard. But Golesh is a guy who's got SEC experience. He's a Josh Heupel. I didn't want to use just the worst rhyme, but he's a Josh Heupel disciple. It's just I don't know. Acolyte, does that work? Which was not a very good TV show, by the way. But he's got experience in the conference, and he took over a South Florida program that, remember, was in the absolute bottom of the American, which, as we know, is a good conference. You realize who was just coaching in the American, and the league will be happy to tell you because they put out a graphic with all this. I don't think it's ridiculous to say, hey, look at the caliber of coaches we just had in this league. But Eric Morris is going to Oklahoma State from North Texas. Alex Golesh is going to Auburn from South Florida. John Sumrall is going to Florida from Tulane. And then there's one more that I'm missing there. I'll just find the graphic real quick. But I think that the conference putting that out was kind of funny, but it was also kind of like, well, so you're showing that you're a league that... and Ryan Silverfield went to Arkansas, who I'm about to talk about. So be good if I remember that. Anyway, those four coaches were just in the league at the exact same time. They're not all going to work, but they're all pretty darn good head coaches. Anyway, bringing this back to Golesh, I give this a B+. Now, he turned around South Florida, and that was a much tougher coaching job than winning at Auburn, because Hugh Freeze figured out the off-the-field stuff, aside from bringing in the right quarterback and, being able to develop one on the field. The off-field stuff is there because the ability to acquire talent, we know is sufficient. We know Auburn is capable of doing that. That expectation for Golesh immediately, I think, is going to be pretty high. The question is what happens on Saturdays. He went to South Florida, a program that had not been heard from, spoken of, or seriously discussed for most college football fans probably since 2007, when they were legitimately in the national championship discussion in the BCS. What a time it was. The program in the 3 years before he got there was 4-29. That's not good. That's 3-4. Yeah. It was bad. It was bad. They were 4-29. He got there, went 23-15, including 9-3 this year. Beat Florida earlier this season, a team that had far more talent on the field than his South Florida team had. And I think that's something that has to be really encouraging if you're an Auburn fan, is that he has shown. Now, is Billy Napier a great head coach? We know that isn't the case. Still, he won an SEC game this year with a group of 5 roster. Auburn, correct me if I'm wrong, has also won just the one SEC game this year. So do I think he can succeed? Yes, I do. I think there is a high expectation for what he can do off the field and bringing in talent. But with this roster, and roster retention is going to be a big subject of conversation, and how the staff works out. Do they keep DJ Durkin as defensive coordinator and all that? Those are all really interesting conversations for the Auburn program to try to figure out in the next several weeks. But I think there should be a pretty immediate expectation of getting Auburn to a certain level. Now, let's let the offseason play out before we put a number on, well, Golesh should be able to do this. But the rebuild that he just did at South Florida, I don't think he's coming in to nearly as bad of a situation at Auburn. Does he need to figure out the quarterback? Yeah. Maybe he thinks Deuce Knight and Ashton Daniels should just battle it out. A young guy who's really talented and a veteran who just showed you he's kind of a gamer over the weekend. Maybe that's good enough. Maybe. Well, let's monitor that as we go. But yeah, I like Alex Golesh. So I give him a B+. I think it's a good move for Auburn. Now, moving to the other SEC job that got filled, Ryan Silverfield was a name that I mentioned a few times on this show, but overall was flying under the radar here. I'm giving this one a B-. Ryan Silverfield has been a head coach for a long time. He's won 29 games at Memphis over the last 3 years. During his tenure, has gotten them with a full season to finish inside the top 25 one time, which is no small feat when you're competing at the Group of 5 level. He does not have ties to the SEC, so it's going to be his first go-round in the conference. Maybe ignorance is bliss, or maybe he's not quite ready for it, and he's going to a place at Arkansas that is not one of the better jobs in the SEC. Now, if they could get some of their bigger brands like Walmart and Tyson Foods and those sorts of folks involved, it reminds me a lot of a job I'm going to talk about later on the show. Oregon State, I think CEO of NVIDIA or somebody at that company, which you may have heard something about in the last few weeks. He's an Oregon State alum, and I don't know, there's a pretty good example in the state of Oregon of an incredibly wealthy business executive taking an interest in a football program and it having some pretty good results. That team's going back to the playoff this year. Just throwing it out there. I'm going to get back to that. So, Ryan Silverfield, the reason I put this at a B-, I almost went C+. I just think Memphis is a good program that's been going up against some legitimately good teams and coaches over the last couple of years. He has not made an AAC championship game. He hasn't won one, but he's won a lot of games. Memphis in the American is, by comparison, a better job than Arkansas in the SEC. And the reason I give Golesh a higher grade at Auburn than Silverfield at Arkansas is there's a big jump. Is what Silverfield did at Memphis was worthy of consideration and getting a Power 4 head coaching job. It was not as impressive as what Golesh did at South Florida. And the guy who did the more impressive coaching job is walking into a better situation. So I am happy that Arkansas didn't settle for Bobby Petrino. I think they were interviewing him. He didn't win the games. So I am happy for their sake that they did not decide to settle on what would have been an easy hire and you could have sold, well, they were close. Yeah. Okay. All right. The Scott Frost logic. Don't think that was ever seriously flying. So I like Ryan Silverfield. I think he can do well. What exactly is success at Arkansas? What is that job in the modern SEC? I don't know. That's my honest. I do not know if Arkansas is capable of ever making the college football playoff. I'll just say this. If you have made a truly home run hire, then he's a guy that will shift the perception of your program. Indiana is seen as a great program because they are a good team and a good job. Literally 2 years ago, they were none of those things. One coach can come in and change the entire identity and outlook of your football program if you made the right hire. Which of these guys do you think has done that? I don't think at LSU and Florida you can actually shift the perception as much. You can just accomplish what is supposed to be accomplished at those spots. But for Golesh and Silverfield, I put them in the same segment because I think they're closer together. I'd rather be at Auburn than Arkansas right now, without question. But is either as high caliber of a job as Florida or LSU? No. It's why they didn't get as high a grades for the coaches that I think were the two best guys really on the market right now. So B- for Silverfield, but a B+ for Alex Golesh. I think both could succeed. The question becomes for the fans, what is success and how long are you willing to wait for it?